Hey legal besties, and welcome to Ladies in Law. My name is Michaela Dixon, and today we have an incredible guest. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
I am so excited to be here with you guys. I am Danielle Hendon, founder of Corners CFO, and we provide fractional CFO services for law firm owners and founders that are looking to look into the future and get a better idea of what's going on. I come from a background of public accounting, which I feel like resonates so much with what a lot of you guys have gone through or are going through as attorneys in a very male dominated field.
Yes, amen. That is amazing. I think that there's so much empowerment in the work that you do because I think having some kind of financial literacy or just knowledge and education is so important because it can just, instill so much in you to advocate for you and know what you're doing and looking for. And I think sometimes the hardest part in that space is just not knowing the questions to ask because you don't know what you're supposed to know. And so the fact that you take the time to educate and help and empower, how did this come to be?
So I will go way, way back because I always love
Please
telling
do.
this part. I think it's funny. I actually went to college thinking I was going to be a music major and sing opera for a living. And
Stop. That's amazing.
not going to make any money. So realized I did not have friends in high places, but I did have friends over in the business school. And there's an odd correlation between numbers and music. And I just loved everything about accounting. I know that makes me weird, but I loved it and stuck with it, did the public accounting gig. I am down here in Houston. So when I got out of college, I landed with a public firm and then went to oil and gas. So after my time in oil and gas, I will say that it was during the pandemic when I decided to start the business. My oil and gas company I was with had gone through bankruptcy and they came out the other side and they were slicing and dicing. And for me, when the pandemic hit, it was a bit of a silver lining. I never want to take away from what some people went through, but I think all of us can admit that the whole world slowed down in a way that I don't know that any of us ever have. At least for me, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. And I became a completely different parent. I was involved in all the things that you hire a nanny to do when you're climbing the corporate ladder or climbing the firm ladder. And I didn't want to give that up. And there had to be a way to do what I loved doing, but also be with the people that I care about the most. And that is what birthed Four Corners CFO.
Wow, that was beautiful. I think that is that. I think the way that you explain that is so palpable. I appreciate that you're I don't want to take away from what someone else's experience was, but for me and my takeaway was slowing down and being intentional about where I'm putting my time and my energy. And I think sometimes that intentionality to take that step back and do that assessment is so hard, especially when you are deep in the culture of hustle, 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 keep growing, keep doing this, burn your candle at both ends, It's how do you have any time to sit back and be do I even want to be doing this? Or am I doing this because I feel like it's this societal expectation that I'm supposed to just be constantly meeting and surpassing?
And I think as women, we are constantly taking care of other people that it almost takes somebody else calling us out to remember to take care of ourselves.
Yes. Yes. And do you have someone in your life that is able to do that for you?
So my husband is definitely one of those for me. And if you are a business owner, you probably have a spouse, a partner, or a friend that is in a similar position. I know when I first started this business, we all start this to have flexibility and time back and all these dreams of work-life balance. And I will be honest, I did not give myself that at all when I started. And my husband was the one that was like, hey, wait, time out. I think you just built another job and you're actually working even harder for this one. And that was a pivotal moment for me when it came to the business in terms of hiring people and delegating and what do I really want out of it, not just
Mhm.
growth.
Yeah, I think that that's so important. And I think that kind of goes to curating a good network around you too. And I think it's funny because networking has such a businessy kind of word, but I mean just your network of people, your friends, your partner, your family, whoever is in your group that you really value their opinion and they see you and want what's best for you. So just kind of intaking that kind of advice is so different than if someone in the outside world said it because you don't know intention and all of the things. And so to have that kind of accountability around you is so huge. Like in terms of like building your business, like how did you get to the point of comfortability in delegating? Because I know like I I am always like I know how to do this. It might be faster if I just do it, because if I take the time to teach someone to do the things, like how is that something that you struggled with? Is that something that you were like, oh yeah, I'll delegate?
Yes and no. So there were things that were very easy to delegate. One of my first hires was getting a virtual assistant to help with like the tedious Outlook, email, calendaring, marketing, all of those things. And that felt very easy, but when it comes to the things that you are supposed to know or you feel like you're supposed to know, or for me it was when it came to the accounting stuff because I did know it, but also when it came to like how to set up the business, you put this burden on yourself when you start a business of like I'm supposed to know these answers, and
Mm,
realizing that it takes more time and energy and honestly money to figure out those answers than to find someone I can trust to help me with those answers was a really big part of that delegation journey. And it's a big part of what I like to give business owners now from a CFO perspective. Because even when you have that entire group of people around you and that support network, your spouse or your partner is probably thinking about your business in terms of what you're bringing home, let's be honest, and how you show up for family and friends. Your friends are don't have a clue. Like, let's just be real. Unless they're business owners, they don't have a clue.
right.
And when you find other business owners, finances feel so private that very few people talk about them with each other. And you need somebody you can talk about that piece with.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that that's something like it is sometimes like money is such a stigma to talk about, because sometimes you're kind of like, are we talking about this because this is an open space, or is this more ego driven, or is this more inquisitive, or just kind of like no, I don't know. It's sometimes
Are you
hard.
bragging or are we being judgmental or
Yes.
like there's no in
Yes.
between.
No. And so I think that that's like a really refreshing way to hear about it being talked about, is kind of just like, I think breaking stigmas, breaking the uncomfortability, talking about the things that like deserve to have space. And I think that especially for like women to feel empowered talking about it and knowing what to ask and be educated on what that means is so important. And so for you, like do you feel like a big part of your job is educating? When you come in, like what is kind of like your what do you do? How do you do
So
it?
I'm going to be honest because I do work with a lot of attorneys. I
Yeah.
know that there's a little bit of ego there. You guys know what you do and you went to school and you know what you're doing and you're smart as heck. But there are things that none of us were taught in school. And that's where this piece comes in. And it is about reminding everybody this is not a judgment. This is an empowerment. This is a tool.
Mm,
It's one more thing in the toolbox that we can leverage to get the best result possible. I think a lot of times people hear budget and they think restriction instead of roadmap. They hear
mm,
finances and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to be judged about whether I have enough or if I'm making too much. Or there is zero judgment attached to what I do. It really truly is about building a partnership so that we can soundboard and we can brainstorm and we can make sure that while you are growing a firm or even in your personal finances, while you are growing in that space, are you taking care of yourself while you're doing it? Because it is not sustainable, whether a career or a firm, if you're not taking care of you while you do that.
mm. Yes. And I think something that's so important in what you're saying is like the reframing of your mindset. You know, because if you are looking at something as a restriction, how are you going to incentivize yourself to sit down and do it when that you're looking at it as this chore, where it's like, well, I'm not going to prioritize this if I've been working all day long, I'm exhausted, and I still need to make dinner and do XYZ. I'm not going to also want to add another chore on top of it. But that
Mhm.
reframing of your mindset, if it's making informed decisions, it's setting yourself up for success, it's thinking about future you and also present you, you know, where it's just kind of like that reframing is huge. And I love the way that you talk about that, where it's kind of like, instead of using this word, if we look at it like this, how would that change the way that we interact with it?
Well, and words are powerful. So, one of the
Mm,
things that I tell every member of my team in our firm is we do not use accounting words. Like, there are some you can't get away from. Revenue is revenue. But to the best of our ability, if I'm using a word that somebody else doesn't understand, it means they can't translate. They can't use that information. Everything we do needs to be useful to the person that we're talking to. I think one of the best compliments I got early on in my business was a client telling me that I'm not the stuffy old white guy talking down to her, because I think CPAs have this stigma of being very verbose and talking about all these things at a high level. And to be fair, attorneys do too sometimes. And
For
I think
sure.
it's one of those places where we can connect in a way that, yeah, we could go toe to toe with people that know the jargon, but we don't have to. The whole point here is for you to understand what we're saying.
That's so amazing. Because I do think that it's like making it palatable and coming at it from like a human perspective is huge. Because I think that I'm in a better place to receive if I feel like I am being met with this like same level of respect and just kind of like intention of like educating and empowering instead of showing you how smart I am or showing you why it is that like I am in this position. It's because I XYZ. It's like, no, it's not about you.
It's not. It's never about me. I could tell someone that they need to go get a line of credit, which, yes, if you're listening to this and you own a law firm and you don't have a line of credit, you need to go get a line of credit. I could say that all day long, but if we haven't talked about what you think about debt, and if you're like me and grew up in the Dave Ramsey world of things, and you're like, no, we're not supposed to have that, we have to have a whole other conversation about why debt's okay and how I'm going to help you be accountable. And I'm in this with you. It's not just you rolling around in debt. Like, there's so much more to it than just the telling somebody what to do. And I will never, ever be the person to tell somebody what to do, but I want to make sure you have the information to make the best decision possible. And I think kind of taking it full circle, it all goes back to that intentionality.
Yes, and because I think that you're coming at it from a very human perspective, where it's just kind of like let's relate on this level. And I think that there is a certain level of vulnerability when it comes to money and people's relationship with money. And so the fact that you intentionally create this environment that people feel safe to come and talk and say their worries and say their real fears or say the things that like I didn't know this, because I think there's vulnerability in saying that you don't know everything, that you don't have the answers, that it's something you just haven't either been grown up around or knew what to ask or all of these things, to show up and be like, please teach me. I think that there's a certain level of vulnerability in that. And so you taking the time to meet the person where they're at and then see them holistically, because I'm sure that you have a checklist of like, these are really important things. And also, does this make sense for you? And so you take that extra step, and I think that that's huge and missing in a lot of areas of life. So I thank you for that.
Well, and what's the point of knowledge if you can't act on it? So I'll give you actually like a real true life example.
Yeah.
I told one of our clients they needed to get a line of credit, and they did go get a line of credit. And they are very debt averse, and they're actually dipping into it quite a bit right now because they're having some turnover, employee realization, pricing issues that we're working through. And because of that, that number is getting uncomfortable for them. It's not astronomical, but it's very uncomfortable. And it becomes something that we talk about every single meeting because I know how uncomfortable it is. So
Yeah.
we have to make sure they know there's a path forward to solve it.
Yeah. Well, I love that because I think in terms of like being an attorney, something that I have always wanted to, because I help with some of like our training for some of our cases in terms of like how are we talking to potential clients. And I think when you're being trained, you kind of want this checklist of just like, okay, give me all the things that I need to ask. And it's like I try and kind of stay away from that because I never want it to seem like someone's reading off a checklist. Because I feel like if I am coming to someone and I'm talking about a traumatic experience I've been through, I don't want to feel like I'm just getting read these questions. It's like, well, this is very hard for me to open up about. And if I feel like you have a means to an end, you're just trying to get an answer and move on. You're not validating my experience. I don't really feel like you're listening. And so then it's just kind of like, why would I continue to be raw when I'm not being met with that kind of connection? And I feel like that's kind of what you explain in the way that you do this process, is just meeting that person where they're at and also empowering them.
And with a whole structure behind it. So like the checklist still exists. We're
For
still going to
sure.
do all the things and we're going to make sure we get where we need to go, but we all get to be human while we do it. And I think that is probably one of my favorite parts about working with other females in business is we are very authentic and human and passion driven and culture oriented. And it
Hmm.
just, for lack of a better way to put it, and I know this is somebody else's term, but it's that rising tide.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And I love that. And I think that I'm so excited that I'm seeing more of that rhetoric, you
Yes.
know? And I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. But the fact that like I get to be in this space and have just these like badass, kick-ass women in power and leadership talking about the way that we can lean into our softness and can lean into our humanity and our emotions and be empathetic and it not be looked at as this weakness. Because I think that there's so much strength in that.
And it doesn't have to be the hustle hard, play hard that we've all
Mm.
come through and from. It gets
Hmm.
to be when I started my firm and all of my team is part time, and I will be honest, all of my team right now is women. Doesn't have to stay that way, but it is.
Hmm.
And I wanted it to be a place where people could be really, really good at what they do and not have to work ridiculous hours to do it.
Amazing. Because I think that there's like, it's almost been glamorized for so long, just like the sacrifices.
To
And
burn
not
yourself
just,
out.
yes, yes. And so something that I feel like is riddled within what you're saying is the sustainability. So can you kind of talk about like what does sustainability mean to you and how is that kind of working around you and how do you make sure that it's promoted in your business and your life?
Sustainability is probably the core of what I like to do with business owners because it captures both the financial side but also the personal side. One of my new favorite phrases is that burnout will kill your business as fast as bankruptcy because there are so many, especially female founded firms, that are out there working their tail off and not doing it in a way that is growing the bottom line and helping them pay their bills. I have had firms come to me and say, I don't know if I'm still going to be in business in a year because I think I'd be better off going back to big law. And
Mm.
that just breaks my heart. And it's because nobody helped them set up the right foundation and the right structure underneath it to support where they're going. It's not for lack of work, it's not for lack of business or knowledge. It's just the right systems aren't in place.
Yeah. I think that's so important because I think as women in fields that have been predominantly male, we are made to kind of feel like we have to prove that we deserve to be in this space. And so it's working two times harder. It's making sure your name is heard. It's making sure your face is seen. It's making sure that, you know, you are working all this time. Like you just are constantly in this position to prove that you
And you
deserve to
can't
be
not have the answer, which is
right.
so counterproductive when you run a firm.
Yes, because I mean like every person in leadership that I like admire has had that vulnerability of being like I don't have the answer, but I'll find it out. Because that gives me the space to be like, okay, I don't have to just like always have an answer. I can ask a question. It opens you up to actually no one knows everything.
We're not meant to. And I will, again, if you are listening to this and you run a firm and you are trying to figure out your own finances, I want you to hear me when I say your billable hour is worth so much more than you learning how to do finances. Get a
Mm.
really good bookkeeper, get some help, get somebody behind you because that, A, you don't want to or you would have gone in for accounting. So it's definitely not what you love, but it's also not worth your time.
Yes, and I think that that's it's hard because it's like our time is a commodity.
Hmm.
And we only have so much to give. And if we are constantly giving and giving and giving and giving and not taking time to like replenish, that's not it's not sustainable. You can't upkeep that forever. And I think sometimes we forget that like tomorrow really is not promised. And so if we are constantly thinking like, well, I just have to do this for now. This is just for now so that in the future I can X. It's like you're not guaranteed the future. And right now we're still living. And I think that's hard because I think sometimes it's like, well, I want to work hard so that I can appreciate when I get to do this. And it's like, yes, but you also need to appreciate now.
The bar always moves. It
Yeah.
never stops when you do that. And I will say, in terms of time and sustainability and just kind of that financial aspect of sustainability, I get this because I come from a firm on the accounting side. We all have what I will call time tracking PTSD, and those of us that leave big law or public accounting never want to touch it again. But that is part of those structures and those systems that really do give you financial gold. If you're not tracking your time and you're just jumping into pricing, you might actually be losing money or making really bad decisions from a revenue perspective.
Yeah, I think that's hard because it does feel like such a chore. You know
It
what I
really
mean? Where it's just
is.
yeah, and then also though, like when I have done it, I feel like I grossly underestimate the amount of time that something can take. You know,
When
and
I
so
hand
it's
something to my team is when I really figure it out because it'll be I haven't touched this thing in who knows how many months and I'm delegating to and I'm like, man, what this should take like 4 hours. No, no, it does not take 4 hours.
I know it like literally like checks like you check yourself when you're doing it. We're kind of just like, oh, okay, because like I'm a very type A, plan oriented. I have my to do list. I have my time blocks. But it's hard when I do that, and then a task takes me way longer than I kind of
You
planned
can't
for.
finish
So
it.
yes. And then I
Mhm.
just feel behind, and then I'm trying to, and then you know, where it's just kind of like if I actually
And
took the
then
time to do that, I feel like I'd have a better sense of it.
imagine layering on top of that if you're running the firm and we all do this, so I don't want anyone that's doing this to feel judged about it. I'm
Yeah.
guilty as charged and I do flat fees. But if you're doing that and your flat fees are on top of it and something that was supposed to take 4 hours and you priced it like 4 hours, took
Hmm.
8, even if you're the one doing it, you're losing money because now you don't have the amount of hours and the dollars to replace yourself one day.
Wow. That's a perspective shift.
I mean, we all want to replace ourselves one day, right? Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody running a firm wants to indefinitely have to be doing all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it's hard to maintain forever, and especially when you want to live life and have these different experiences that may not have been priorities because we prioritized the grinding or you know, and so
Yep.
I think that that's important to look at. And I think something that is kind of riddled within the sustainability is trying to combat burning out. What are
Mhm.
things that you actively do to try and combat burning out? Either for yourself or for other business owners,
I
both.
will be the first to say the cobbler's kids don't have very good shoes. We have shoes, but we don't have very good shoes. I am not the greatest at combating my own burnout, but it's also why I'm so passionate about doing it for other people. I do think carving out time for yourself is part of it from a just lifestyle perspective, making sure that you have time for yourself that you do turn off, especially as a business owner and even probably even as an attorney right now in this day and age, we are just constantly connected. And it's hard to create that transition that we all used to have when you would drive home from work because I'm sitting in my office right now at home. So like, you lose some of that and you have to intentionally create it. The other piece I would say from a financial perspective that we work on with clients is how do we make sure that you're treating yourself just as good as you're treating your employees? That we're capturing your time and your payroll and making sure it's consistent so that as you grow, you're growing in a way that allows somebody else to step into those shoes and you can take on the things you love, not just all the things you have to do. And the things you love might be different. I have firm owners that adore the practice management side of it. They want to be in the practice, managing the people, hands in it. I have people that adore being in court and that's where they want to be. And then I have ones that are like, I don't want to have to draft another anything in my life again. So they focus more on bringing in the clients and running the firm. There's a place to do what you love and delegate the pieces you don't. And I think that's a big part of sustainability and preventing burnout is we all have things we have to do that we don't enjoy, but as much as we can minimize that and focus on your zone of genius and the things you love doing and delegating the other parts, it just makes life more enjoyable.
I love how you said that because I think sometimes when I think about combating burnout, I think about the things I can do outside of work, you know, where it's like, okay, I just need to balance it. I need to go outside. I need to make sure
Touch
that I
grass.
stop work. Yes, touch grass. Exactly. Like, you know, but what you said is something I don't even know if I really have like taken a second to just think about is like what you can do within what you're doing in work to combat
Mhm.
the burnout where it is like making sure that you have time for the things that you are passionate about. And I
Mhm.
think that it's hard when you kind of are just like in the motion and it's like, okay, well, these are the things that need to get done. They're going to get done. But it's like, okay,
Mhm.
but what do I enjoy? And are there aspects in this that I enjoy that I'm not even really like looking at? And can I look at it as like, oh, I get to do this today, as opposed to like, okay, gotta tackle this, you know? Just kind of that reframing. I think coming full circle in terms of just like intentionality in knowing what you're doing. Are there things that can be delegated that are, you know, taking away from your joy or your passion and not giving you enough time in those areas? And then making sure you have time for you. Because exactly what you're saying, I think like I felt like I had such a better job of like like keeping up with all of like my people when I had a commute. I was like, okay, this is a dedicated time to call
To
and
call
do.
everyone.
Yes, and now my commute is my bedroom to down the hall, you know? Like
Yep.
and you are constantly, especially with like the rise in like social media being such like a connection tool, you know, where even if you're not on the clock, you're still creating these connections or helping or doing things where it is hard, and to make sure that you kind of do allow yourself to turn that side of your brain off just a little bit.
Yeah. Delegation is so key to maintaining sustainability, but also to your growth as a person, as a business. Like, I delegate to my kids in my house. Like, it's such an important thing to do for everybody. And then what I have to remind myself is when I delegate things, I want to make sure I'm delegating to people that also enjoy that thing. So my
Mm.
EA loves what she does as an executive assistant. She loves doing it. My ops manager loves, like, all of those pieces. My marketing person loves playing in Canva. I do not. But I'm going to let her love what she loves and do it.
I love that. Also takes time for like you too, where you take the time to like create a space where they can talk to you about like, I love doing this, I want to do this. And so like you allow people to come to you with their passion too, and like help them fill that up, and I think that that's really special.
It makes it fun to work for. It makes the business fun for me to work in and grow, and I hope makes it fun for my team to show up and be there as well.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. And then I also have a question that I'm asking our guests this season that I want to make sure I get to ask you. And that's, if you could give younger Danielle one piece of advice, what would that be?
Okay, so my CPA friends that are still in public accounting and like higher up the ranks these days may not love me for this one, but I really truly believe it. You don't have to be the superstar when you go into a firm. You are allowed to have work-life balance. And if you take that away from yourself, you're setting yourself up for burnout because they will keep letting you do it. Nobody else is going to stop you.
I think younger me could have needed that too.
I think younger me could have really used that. I think we are all guilty of, again, to your point, we do double. We want to show up even better. We're there for all the things. And when you're in kind of that hustle hard, play hard environment, it's not just work. It's also the recruiting and the dinners and the play hard part is still work.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Like you are just such a wealth of knowledge, and you say things in such like a digestible way, which is really refreshing in this space. So just thank you for the work that you're doing and for being here, and if our guests want to reach out, use your services, find you, pick your brain, where can they find you?
So if you want to find me on social, LinkedIn is where I am the most active, and you will most likely hear from a real person. And then if you want to check it out on the whole revenue and growth and sustainability, we have a quiz that we've launched for law firm owners that helps you identify how much money you're leaving on the table. And it really is based on how many people you have and how much time they're putting in and how you're pricing. And you can find that on a landing page that we're going to create just for you guys. It'll be on our website. So the number 4, not the word, cornerscfo.com/ladies-in-law.
God, that's genius. Thank you. Thank you. Just thank you. Thank you for being you. I'm so glad to be connected with you, and I'm so glad that all of our listeners get to be empowered and educated by you. So thank you very, very much, Danielle.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love these conversations. And if anyone got just like one thing to take away and do differently and take care of themselves, that means the world to me.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. Until next time. Bye. That was so good. I love that.
Yay!